Is this De La Soul's greatest album? Peace, y'all. I'm MC Till, co-author of the Boom Bap Review, and I'm going to jump into my favorite De La Soul albums, and I'm going to list all of them because they're my favorite group of all time, and I love all their music. All right, this first album I want to talk about, First Serve, is my least favorite project. It's not actually a De La Soul album, but it's Paz and Dave on here, and I think it's a good album. So even my least favorite De La project is still an album that I really, really like. And I like this album because it's a concept album. They stick to the concept. Great storyline. I thought it was a very well thought out story. And like I said, they stick to it. So very well done. Production in here is good too. I think that's the reason why it's my least favorite, because the production is more polished than what I prefer. And that's not a bad thing. It's just personal preference. And I think that's actually part of the concept, which is cool. So again, good album, and I really like it. All right. This isn't technically an album, so to speak, but I just wanted to mention it and say that I also really like this project too. Mission Impossible Volume 1. I think it's a Volume 1. Part 1. So, hey, maybe a Part 2 is coming someday. We'll see. But I really like this album too. Okay, getting into the... Technically, these are the De La Soul albums here that I want to talk about. Bionics. When this album first came out, I was a little let down. And I wasn't let down by De La Soul. I was let down because I was tripping back then and I was putting expectations on artists, and I had an expectation of what I wanted this album to be. Well, once I got over myself and you know, left that dumb way of looking at the world and setting expectations on other people, which is ridiculous. Once I got over that and really sat down and really sat with this album, I came to really appreciate this album. Off the bat, there were songs that I liked. Like Watch Out was super dope. What was it? Held Down, super dope. So right off the bat, there were definitely songs that I really liked. And then over time, I grew to appreciate pretty much every song on this album. So Bionics, great album. Still, my least favorite De La Soul album. That's how much I love De La Soul. All right, here you go. Second least favorite is And the Anonymous Nobody. Now, I grew since, you know, Bionics came out, and I no longer was putting these ridiculous expectations on artists. So I came into this album with no expectation. It was just me, my excitement for my favorite group of all time, and the music. And I really like this music. It's different. I know it gets mixed reviews from hip hop heads. People saying, you know, it's not even a hip hop album, it's more of a rock album. But I think it all works. I like this album a lot. Every song on here. So I think De La Soul made it work. So I think this is a really dope album. So I like it. All right. Coming up next, we have Artificial Intelligence, Mosaic Thump. Dope album. An album I revisit, you know, pretty often to this day. An album I just, you know, put it on press play and just kind of vibe out throughout the whole thing. Not a whole lot of downsides to this album. Really good album from start to finish. All right. That puts us in to my top 5 De La Soul albums. The Grind Date. I was so excited when this album came out. I could not wait. And then when I, you know, pressed play, and it was, to me, I liked it way more than their previous album, which was the Bionics album, I believe. I think that's correct. Fact check me and comment below if I'm wrong. But I was so excited because instantly I loved this entire album. It's dope beats, dope rhymes, what more do y'all want? It's concise. You know, a lot of times De La Soul has lots of skits and, you know, a lot of songs. This is like more stripped down. Kind of reminds me of Balloon Mind State a little bit, even though that, you know, had skits, but less songs. Just simple, short, dope. Great album, Grind Date. All right, coming in at number 4, which I can't believe I'm doing to this album, but I got to do it. This is 3 Feet High and Rising. The reason why I say I can't believe I'm doing it, I have a hard time not putting this album at number 1 because this is what set it off. This is what inspired me to start rhyming and start writing and making beats and all that. This is probably the most influential album that I've ever heard in my life. But having said all that, I think the other 3 albums I'm about to list I like them better. I'm not going to say they are better. That's up for debate, but I like them better. But still, this has a special place in my heart, and I absolutely love 3 Feet High and Rising. It's not an album. It's an experience. There's skits, there's songs that are skits. It's just an amazing experience, and to this day, I put it in and just love this album. So 3 Feet High and Rising right there. All right, coming in at number 3 is Stakes is High. Another fantastic album. Over the years, You know, 3 Feet High and Rising, you know, stayed at like number 1, number 2 spot for a long time, number 3. But this bumped it out because over time, this album has grown on me more and more and more. I mean, instant classic in my book. I loved it when it came out. I love it today. I remember the moment when I got it. I remember listening to it that night. It was a Friday night way back when I was in high school. I think it was in June. I think it came out in June. Just a fantastic album from beginning to end. Beats are dope, concepts dope, lyrics dope, everything on here is dope. So love this album. All right, clocking in at number 2 is De La Soul Is Dead. I remember as a kid, I was so mad because my mom and dad wouldn't let me stay up and watch I think there was some football game on. It was really late. And I remember my mom sent me up to my room to go to bed. And I was so bummed and so frustrated. And I just remember getting the tape out of this album and playing it. And, you know, I soon forgot about that football game. Love this album. The skits on here are so dope. The beats on here, man, I love the beats on here. Again, it's kind of like their first album. It's an experience. I just think the songs and the beats are better on this album than on their debut. So, like, I think they upped their game. So, love this album. All right, you know what it is. Clocking in at number 1. It's not the Nike mixtape. That's dope too, but I've never found a physical copy of that. But that's a pretty dope little joint. But it is Balloon Mind State. I absolutely love this album. It's not just my favorite De La Soul album. It is my favorite album of all time. And I just think every song, I love every song on here. I love their presence on here. I love how they're rhyming on here. I love the infusion of jazz. There's something about jazz and hip hop coming together. And I know a lot, I mean, it's a big part of hip hop. And I know Guru and, you know, Gang Starr and Digable Planets and so many others have, you know, leaned heavily into sampling jazz. But there's just something about how they did it on this album that just stands out to me. It just sounds so good, so natural. And then there's Shorty No Mas on this album. I feel like her presence on this album actually took it from being a really great album to darn near masterpiece, perfect album. Like this, her presence on this album really makes the album better. I mean, it's already amazing without her, but she makes it even that much better. So shout out to Shorty Mas for that. And shout out for De La Soul. Thank you, Dave. Shout out to Dave. Rest in peace. Rest in power forever, of course. And that does it. Those are my favorite De La Soul albums in order. So let me know what you think about that order. How would you change it, rearrange it? And for bonus points, you can comment your order below. And let's have a conversation about one of the greatest groups of all time, De La Soul. All right, y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Peace, peace, peace.